Brower. He joins us live from Paris. Hello.
Mhm.
And we're here with Inspired Online. I'm obviously Shay Ali, your host, and I'll tell you a little bit about David. So David, you're going to notice from the accent, I'm very sorry, but he identifies as French, so don't call him an American, but he was born in Beverly Hills to a very creative family, and at the age of 22 he decided to move to Paris and explore everything that Parisian culture has to offer. Now, obviously it's a very small percentage of people that were born in America that live in Paris, but he made this work. And how did he do that? He did that with his love of connection with people, his love of the arts, his love of food, and just really diving deep into those amazing experiences that Paris has to offer, or everywhere has to offer. And what I love about David is he really takes this energy with him everywhere to create these wonderful experiences for everyone that's around him, really. And what he teaches these days is the sensorial experience. So if you've never been to check one out after we're done with this lockdown stuff, that is a really great way to learn more about food, art, connection, all the yummy good stuff in life. And he teaches about the concept of a lifefulness, which really is that juice that keeps us going. So it's my delight and pleasure to welcome you to the Sensorial Guy. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Shay. That was a nice introduction. Appreciate it.
And as you know, because you've known me for a while, you've known Inspired for a while, we ask people, if you had 10 minutes to share your wisdom, what would you say to the world? Now, we're not doing the stage experience today, but we'd still love you to share your wisdom with us. And what would that be?
Yeah, I really feel life is about the person that appreciates our existence the most is the person who wins at life.
Yeah.
So it really boils down to how good are you at noticing, observing, appreciating, what happens in your life, what you're experiencing, and the every day, every moment, things that happen to you. And of course, life isn't always good, but nonetheless, that you let yourself be there really right in the moment is really a lot of what everyone is chasing these days, right? People are talking about mindfulness and using meditation and our lack of concentration and our inability to stay focused on anything for a very long time. And I feel that as we start to develop actually our senses more by using them and being able to focus on them more in our everyday lives, with everything that we do, we can actually become brought into the present and actually savor more the ride than just constantly going towards some destination and not really enjoying life as we're going along. I mean, life is supposed to be joyful and pleasurable.
Yeah.
And as long as you're not going to some extreme way of living and being, which could be, for example, I'm always accurately or inaccurately characterizing the life of Jim Morrison as being kind of a wild life. And what I like to feel is that we want to be in touch with that side of ourselves to really release our creativity and our daring and our audacity and this energy inside of us. While at the same time, we don't want to go too far. We don't want to go overboard into excess. We want to go into ecstasy, surely, but not into excess where it takes us into addictions or bad lifestyle choices, bad habits. And for me, when you're way more attentive to your senses and what you're observing, it gives you way more choice about what to actually choose, and kind of raises the quality of your existence at the end of the day. So for me, I mean, if you have dinner with me at a table, you will be feeling super appreciative for everything that's being eaten, and I'll be looking at things and tasting things and smelling things and talking about things and asking questions about things, and sharing it and expressing it and doing kind of the savoring game.
That is so what you're like. I love it, actually.
Which is like the savoring game of life. I mean, you take that metaphor and you do that in a business meeting, you do that in a family online virtual cocktail, which I'm doing a lot of these days with my family,
Yeah.
to really come to the present moment and use your senses instead of closing off to them and being lost in thought, being lost in the future, being lost in something, just not being connected to your senses. And it's a very pragmatic way to come back to now by leaning on your senses. Now, what's been troubled for a lot of people, I think, and I'm not immune to this all the time either, is that we can get confused by our senses and tricked by our senses and get lost in them. So we smell, that bakery, smell the good stuff coming out of the bakery when we want to go in and buy stuff. It's okay to smell it. It's okay to enjoy that. But if you go in and you buy 10, pain au chocolat, chocolate croissants, and eat them in one sitting, that's probably not the right way to go about it. So it's how do you exactly, how do you let yourself actually savor life without being so consumed by it that you lose your agency and control over guiding it, that you lose your self-regulation.
Yeah.
And so I explore a lot in the experiences that I do, and when I work with people or mentor or guide them, these different types of things, or do conferences and things, it's about already bringing you back to this awareness of yourself vis-a-vis your senses and the world that you're living in. And if you can be way more observant already, first of all, the pleasure of your life, you're going to get way more juice out of the orange. Again, like the person who appreciates more life is going to get way more out of it. The one who can see the little flower on the sidewalk, on the cement, and can just savor that for a moment is getting a little piece of happiness. And there's even lots of science around this that suggests that doing this sort of gratitude and savoring boosts your level of happiness. So you can find lots of different kinds of science that supports that kind of way of being. And yeah, it's a sort of artistic, creative mindfulness to actually really draw yourself into the present and, literally look around what's around you, literally try and focus just on what you smell. Sounds, when you're sitting at the bench waiting for the bus, try and focus on all the different sounds you hear. Only focus on the cars. Only focus on voices you hear. Only focus on the kids you hear. Only focus on the horns you hear. And try and differentiate so you can start to train yourself to be able to actually focus on and just listen to that. I remember when I spent time with my dad before he passed away when I was a kid, and he would snore like crazy.
Oh.
And I would be in his little apartment, and I remember teaching myself how to not focus on his snoring so I could go to sleep.
Oh my God, do you know how many couples you could help out there?
It's like,
this is a new program.
Here's an idea.
How do we do that?
Well, it's you control the reality of what you focus on. So if you can train your focus, and we all have it in different things in our life, we can be super focused. On other things, we're really bad because we haven't practiced. But if I guess the way of doing that for sound would be, first of all, just start working on your sound when you're in regular sound situations, like the one I was saying. Go sit in a garden and try and jump between the different channels, like you're swifting a channel shifter. Okay. Focus on the sounds of kids playing in the playground.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes and only focus on that. So block out all the other sounds. Or try to. Then shift to only the birds. Then shift to only the cars or motorcycles that you may hear. Then shift only the people who are playing on the soccer field. Whatever you can do to separate it out, and stay with it. Stay with it. Stay with it. Sharpen your focus. I went and I told you about a Vipassana 10-day silent retreat experience.
Yeah.
This is 10 days, 110 hours of meditation by yourself. It's like living like a monk. Extraordinary experience. And the first 2 days, all you do is focus your attention during 21 hours of meditation on the sensation of the air coming in and out of your nose.
Wow. Okay.
So just let that land for a second. 22 hours over 2 days. You take breaks. All you do is you're sitting there with your eyes closed on the sensation of the wind. I mean, just close your eyes for a second and do that for like 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So we're training our awareness
Mm.
to focus. And that's really the key to having a quality life. If you can train yourself to focus long enough on things
Mm.
and strong enough on things, I think you could probably even block out snoring at some level. It's like you don't grab onto it. It's like in a meditation, a thought that comes through that you just let float through. It's the cloud that you just don't grab onto, or it's there and then it's not, and it's there. But if you can focus on something else, and maybe in the snoring thing, it's you focused on some visualization, counting sheep or counting your lover jumping over a bench or something. Do something kind of creative in your head. But if not, even focus on a sensation in your body.
Yeah.
Do a tour of your body, focus on your breathing.
Well, it could
A
even be.
lot of people go back to this whole breath thing, and
Mm.
that's hard for people to have the patience to focus on it. And I think this is why people do other things.
Yeah.
It's something to focus on, and you start to train yourself. If you do one sense, you start to train yourself that it'll block out all the other ones. You'll see.
Mm. No, that's amazing. Thank you for that. And I was having this conversation actually last night with some friends of mine about how some people find it really difficult to stay present. So, you know,
Mm.
credit to you that you went on the retreat and focused on breathing for 22 hours. I know that for some people out there, the concept of that is really scary. They think, my mind's just going to go somewhere else. So what would you say to help people who are maybe just starting that journey of total presence?
The greatest thing is to use everyday life. I am all for using everyday life to train yourself to become a better human being.
Mm.
For example, a lot of people could go to work probably either by foot or by bicycle,
Mm.
and you could always choose to take the stairs and not the elevator.
Yeah.
And you could decide to at lunch to go out and walk instead of sitting at your desk. There's lots of things to do that actually you'll get in your exercise for the day as part of your day. Same thing when you start to eat. Every time you eat, take the time, even if you're wherever situation you're in, take the time to actually be attentive to what you're eating.
Mm.
Go through all of the senses. What are you smelling? Take a look at what you're looking at. Appreciate it just for a few seconds more than you usually do. Observe it, appreciate, wow, look how green those leaves of salad are. Look at the pretty color of the beets. And then when you taste it, same thing. You use your senses to feel what it's like to crunch on the walnuts, right? And the sound it makes in your ears. So little things like this of everyday life. If you spend your time going to your phone constantly, that's what you're training yourself to do, right? Is to go to your phone constantly for that. So try it with things that are not related to technology, is what I would say. So food, every time you eat, there's 2-3 opportunities a day to do that. So really to be present and, ask yourself, what am I smelling? What am I tasting? Is there a sound maybe? What is the texture? What are the colors? These kinds of things. And
You've
you'll
just
get
taken
yourself
me
that
there.
thought. Sorry?
I'm glad I had lunch before I spoke to you. Otherwise, I was thinking,
and really, I mean,
okay.
kind of sit properly when you eat, especially if, like, for anyone who works at home or goes and have lunch alone. Your practice sessions are going to be what you're going to show up at, like, in real life. So, like, I'm alone right during this period, and I mostly live alone really now. So, I'm trying to remind myself endlessly to repeat, when I sit and eat, to sit properly, to eat properly, to, not slouch, not, do this, use a proper napkin, use nice silverware as best I can. And, so focus on, like, quality things, little things like this in your life. I'm telling you, the quality of your life changes. If you only eat out of plastic containers when you eat lunch at home, like I never put plastic on my table. I take stuff out of the plastic and put it in if I have something. Or if I'm going to use some mustard, I'll put some on my plate and then move the jar away, because I want a beautiful setting. I want to create something to enjoy and savor. If it's not pretty, it's going to be harder to appreciate what you're experiencing. So when you have the choice, and we always have the choice, choose better.
I love it.
And just use everyday life, like in these moments when you're waiting in line now today, like the Corona thing, focus on people. For example, look at somebody and try to appreciate what they're wearing.
Mm.
Like look at each piece of clothing, and then look at somebody else and look at each piece of clothing.
Mm.
So again, all you're doing is training yourself to be able to focus more
Mm.
on things. And then you start to be able to realize that I can focus on this and not that.
Mm.
I can focus on this sound and not that sound.
Mm.
Oh, hey, wait, I can change the channel. Instead
Yeah.
of it being all this white noise.
Yeah.
And little by little, you start to feel a pragmatic sensation that actually this actually can change the quality of my life experience, of my existence. And this is without having to read a book, going to a seminar, listening to something online. Just use everyday life, right? And even when you're talking to people, do your best to possibly, put your phone in your pocket or something, and to be really present with them, to look them in the eyes, to really listen.
Mm.
And that sounds like such a cliche, but I've been so convinced in this last 2-week period about the importance of us going back to our fundamentals, to all these things that we know or mostly know, but we don't do because we don't practice them. And I'm even going back to like exercising in the morning in a way more regular basis, way longer period. I realized that I've kind of fallen out of shape in some ways, even though I'm in pretty good shape.
Mm.
And so I need to get back to my kind of rhythm, and also realizing how good it makes me feel. And again, exercise, another great example.
Yeah.
When you exercise, really be focusing on what you're feeling. We get kind of lost again in thought. So it's like use your body and what you're feeling and the sensations you're feeling, potentially breathing if you want, but I'm more into like what you're tactily feeling and sensing, what you can see around you. I think if you can get a little bit out of the thought loop, you'll be able to get more into practicing this.
Yeah.
And the better that you can guide your senses, the better you're going to be able to go into the baker shop again next time, savor the smell of the pain au chocolat and all the other beautiful things in the window there, and just like, wow, be like in such gratitude and appreciation for what is. But then you'll be able to just take one of them and savor it, because you're going to be so present to it when you enjoy it. You don't need to eat 10 of them to get the same, sensation. And frankly, if you're having, sex or making love, this is another good thing also. I mean, go and have multiple partners if that's your thing, but also come back to the fundamental of like, what's it really like to actually be right there, stay in there, let it last, savor it, really attentive, relook anew with new eyes, like new wonder, new awe at this person that you're with, at these little, at their elbows. I mean, in their eyes, we don't look so much in each other's eyes anymore. It's like these things. So use daily life, like all these beautiful moments of daily life, and we don't need anything more. It's like if you can already work on that for like 3 months, 6 months, your life will change. You will start to see stuff on that same walk home that you didn't even know was there. You never saw that flower patch.
Yeah.
You never went up and smelled the flowers.
Yeah.
Right? You didn't notice that architectural piece up on the building.
Mm.
Wow. Jesus, look at that. I mean, and so this savoring starts to kick in, and this is accessible to everybody.
Yeah. I
But you
think
need to choose to.
if you choose to do it. Well, I think you've just changed everybody's dinner time for those of you that have been tuning in. Like, try that over dinner. Like David, he's on his own there in Paris. But, rather than thinking I'm on my own and this is really rubbish, have that experience with your food. And be really present with that, and just I love what you said about just setting it up, because you're worth it, you're special, and you deserve to give yourself that experience. So that's really beautiful. I'd like to go on to asking you a bit more about this addiction piece. So you talked in the beginning, and you talked about the pain au chocolat again, and how to get to that place where you don't let that passion like go overboard into addiction. So what would you say to someone who is addicted, I guess?
To food specifically.
Well, I said, let's use food, given that
Yeah,
we're
it
using
was funny. a friend of ours, which we know together, a friend named Ian that you know. I
Mhm.
was traveling with him in Denmark
Yes.
about a year and a half ago. And I remember being in a supermarket with him, and he's got quite a sugar fix.
Mm.
And we were just by the cash registers, and right afterwards, there's this wall of candy, right? These bins of different kinds of colorful candy. And he walks out of the cash register and he's looking at this thing like, I got to have something.
Yeah.
And I grabbed him by the elbow and I just kind of walked him gently outside. So, in one respect, you want to learn, first of all, I think, to train yourself not to be seeing things that you don't want to be attracted to is probably the first step for me. And I'm not a specialist of addiction, but I've done this for my own stuff that I would try to be less addicted to, if you wish, is to kind of avoid stuff. Right. So if that baker shop is on your way home, maybe walk around it, or when you walk by it, look the other way. If you cannot handle looking at it because it's going to draw you, look the other way. Just train yourself when you walk away, look the other way.
Yeah.
Um,
Other sensory experiences to overwhelm the one that you're addicted to, in a sense.
yeah, and also just look the other, fill it with something else. Yeah, it's kind of the way of kind of putting it. Fill it with something else while you're kind of walking by. I think as soon as you get a little bit more agency over yourself, I think it's a great experience to go in like an antidote.
Yeah.
And to actually go into the bakery, let's use this as the example, like go to the window and stand there for 5 minutes looking at things, but with the firm commitment, you're not buying anything. Stand there and look at people walking out with stuff, you smelling the odors outside, and look through the window and just like, wow. And let the feeling come up and kind of see if you can stay there a little while until maybe it goes away, or you get a little bit more control over it, right? The impulse, like gotta have it, will kind of go away because something else will come in while you're looking at it, or some thought will come in. So if you can just patiently wait a second there, I think that helps train you to do that. Then I would say when you get a little bit better, you actually do that when you're inside. You go inside the store where all the smells are and all the noises are, and you just get, it's like right there, you can touch it, right? There's nothing blocking you. And try and be in that experience for a moment, right? And then next step, go and just buy one thing. Say to yourself, you're going to be able to buy one thing. You're not going to buy two. One thing. You can do this also. Again, use regular life. You can do this when you go out to a restaurant. If you come up with yourself with, I don't know, certain guidelines of things that you don't eat. I mean, I eat like everything, at least when it's well prepared and it's good food.
Yeah.
But there's some things I just won't, go towards. Like I'm not really attracted by fried food. I'm not attracted by, I don't know. I don't know. It's like several things you can say that, like in a menu, that you're just not going to go there. So I eat desserts occasionally, but I'm not really a big dessert person. So I don't even really look at desserts. And I don't know, if you kind of come up with a little bit of a guideline for yourself, like what are the things that you look at when you look through a menu, just look for those. It's the same kind of thing. Don't look at the meat section if you only want to eat fish, but you're attracted to meat. Well, don't read what's on the meat thing. It's put your hand over it or something, cover it with a napkin. I don't, get creative about it. I think you can distract yourself for a moment over the impulse thing. It's almost like some people who are attracted, like to pornography or something. It's like, I need the fix right away. Like if you can just if you can somehow find a way to distract yourself for a couple moments, I think you regain agency and choice over yourself and make a different decision, or make the same decision, but at least you're making it consciously, right? At least you're like, I think little by little you can get way more, again, control and agency over yourself. And for some people, a very addictive personality, surely, as they say in things like Alcoholics Anonymous, like you're always an alcoholic, you're always addicted. And so, maybe for some things it just is a complete no. But that can be used like in a good way, like no, I don't take any drugs except I drink some alcohol or something like this. So whenever you're tempted or whenever you're at a party or something, it's like, shouldn't be really an issue. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not debatable.
Well, it's your
Right?
new identity then, isn't it? Your identity is, this is not me. So that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and step into it and just, and it takes practice. But that's again another thing that's great about this period that we're going through right here, where we're probably going to be, indoors for another 30 days. That's a pretty good period to actually build a new habit.
Yeah.
And particularly, there's studies that say it's between 20 and 60 days, but you can accelerate that, again, 3 meals a day you
Yeah.
can actually use to practice something. Maybe it's, I'm not really drinking. I drink wine. I'm quite a big wine drinker, but I've not drank wine in 2 weeks because I was
Wow.
a
Okay.
little bit under the weather about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But I wanted to take this period to actually take a break. And I used to do it with my wife, who uses Lent, as I always say in English, right? Lent,
Yes.
this period before Easter,
Yeah.
to actually make an effort to stop consuming something that is very hard for you to stop consuming. And probably the hardest thing for me has been not to come home and have that beautiful glass of wine.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that for me, like the go-to, love it. It's what I want to eat. My favorite thing to eat with is wine.
Yeah.
And so it's, and I live in France, so I'm very well
Very
situated
blessed.
to
Yeah.
savor that, right? And yet, I was feeling I was kind of maybe drinking a little bit too much in the last couple months. And I needed like a reset and a reboot. So I was given the gift of this not feeling so well for a couple of days, which gave me a little bit of control over my willpower. And I just made the decision from there that I have no bottles of wine around me. It's in my cellar or elsewhere. So I'm not tempted. And I replaced it with different kinds of juices that remind me of wine, like kombucha,
Very
or
nice.
I drink pomegranate juice, which is beautiful. Grape juice, this Italian for cocktail hour I do with people right now. I do a very pretty red Italian bitters drink that I just mix with water,
Nice.
right? And I put a lemon on it, and it looks like I'm drinking alcohol with everybody.
Yeah.
And I've used this period to actually gain a little bit of agency over myself. And 10 days have gone, and I don't even think about, I don't know when I'll drink again. We'll see. I'm going to try and go, I'm pretty much committed to go through Easter and maybe beyond. I'm not, so it's a great period right now to try something. Like I said earlier, for me, also exercising every morning even more has been the thing for me to grab onto. So we have a period to build a new habit here. And if you build a Keystone one, something that's meaningful to your everyday life, it'll have an impact on the rest of your life. And of course, as you know, Shay, I'm very attached to our relationship with food, and then also, of course, our relationship with people around food. But, that's a great place to start to get this feeling of being satiated and savoring. And the more you appreciate something, the more it fills you up, and the less that you need to consume of it. But if you're not present to it, no wonder it's not filling you up. And on top of it, if it's like a donut or something that doesn't have any nutritional value, that's not going to help either. But particularly if you're not present to what you're consuming, or you're eating way too fast. And sometimes I eat too fast. I'm still working on that one every day. But the presence there can make you start to actually notice what you're eating. Suddenly you'll stop eating things that are not too healthy or too good, because you start to really like, wait a minute, that's not too good actually. Why am I eating that, right? So it's like all these levels that start to arise within you. And if you do that just with food and exercise and observing these observation things that we talked about, like a little bit every day, a little bit every day, a little bit every day, the quality of your existence and your self-regulation is going to amplify. And then you can start applying it to other things in your life. That's what I do.
That's wonderful, I think. So you've given us the balance of, how to appreciate life even more, and all those little things around you, and how to temper that so it really works for your life. The time has absolutely flown by with you. I can't believe how long we've been talking, actually. But do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience today?
First of all, thank you, Shay, for welcoming me here. I enjoyed was a couple of years ago, speak on your stage.
Yeah.
And I'm very honored to be here and very proud of what you brought to the world and all the people that you're bringing to share with
Lovely to have you.
your audiences. So I want to just applaud you. I know what it's like to gather people, and your consistency and your showing up and sharing of you and all these beautiful, insightful people around you is really worth applauding. So I want to first thank you for
Oh,
that.
thank
And
you. That's
yeah,
lovely.
just otherwise, it's really, for me, life is really about savoring as much as possible,
Mm.
appreciating as much as possible. And this is the experiences, things, people around you.
Yeah.
It's going back to that. It's kind of a gratitude thing in some ways, but it's more an active role that you can take into it. And it's, for me, appreciation is very linked to pleasure.
Mm.
And you can raise the quality of your life by using your senses to bring you back into a more visceral, direct experience of life. And you start to really realize who you are.
Mm.
You start to really realize what you want. You
Mm.
start to get clarity around how you want to live, the
Mm.
different lifestyle choices you want to make. And you begin to make more qualitative choices about what you want your life to be. And
Mm.
today, given all the constraints that we're living with and under, it's a beautiful way to live, to be able to get way more juice out of every interaction we have,
Yeah.
to get way more pleasure out of every single meal we sit down to in our small little space, confined or even alone, to be able to draw more out of that experience. And you suddenly realize, like, all of these techniques and all these things that masters over the years and decades and centuries and millennium have been teaching us about is, self-love and self-care, and take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And this period right now is a beautiful period for particularly those that are alone, to be able to actually do that self-love piece, but do it through daily life,
Yeah.
through your exercising and your eating and your moments with people, and just really lean into that as the training. And that training becomes your life. And, that's all you need to live a beautiful life, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. And how can people get in touch with you? Like, if they want to dive deeper into sensorial experiences, or if they want to experience a sensorial day with you, what can they do?
Well, they can find me on my website, sure, www.davidbrower.com or alivefulness.com.
Yeah.
You can find me on Facebook and on Instagram, at the Sensorial Guy.
Beautiful.
And you can reach out to me in any one of these forums. You have my details. If you want to put my details on the notes, you can put my email or whatever if you like, Shay.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for your time today. Take
Yeah.
care of yourself. And I look forward to seeing you again, either virtually or in person, as soon as we can.
Yay!
Yay.
Let's do it.
Love. Take
Yeah.
care.
Bye, everyone.